This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast alongside Amin Elhassan. I'm Jorge Sedano. And coming up in a bit, we'll break down how the Warriors have now figured out the Grizzlies. We alluded to this recently, but now I feel like this is a done deal at this point, and maybe a formality awaits us as well tonight with Chicago and Cleveland and the Clippers and the Houston Rockets. But first, we got to start off with Atlanta and Washington. Now, I don't know if it was the most well-played game, but I'll tell you this. I described it on Twitter this way, that the game, at least the end of that game, was clumsy, dramatic, and yet fantastic all in the same breath.
Oh, absolutely. I was entertained. I wasn't, I'll say, let me get the serious stuff out of the way. I wasn't impressed by the way the Hawks played. I don't think there's anything that gives us confidence the Hawks have, quote-unquote, figured it out. If I'm the Wizards, I still feel very confident because John Wall played and played well, despite having all those fractures in his left hand. But it was entertaining. It was an entertaining game to watch, to see the Hawks make this furious comeback, to see, Paul Pierce hit that shot, and then Al Horford with the manliest of man offensive rebounds and putbacks. I mean,
Good Lord.
that is I am a man. I am a man. That's what he said there.
What was Nene doing there? Like he had the rebound. Like what? How do you let him get that rebound?
No, you know what's funny? You actually, of course, you know it's funny. You're the one that sent it to me. Not what was Nene doing. What was Paul Pierce doing?
Paul Pierce. Yeah, he did like when you're testing out Mortal Kombat moves, like with your buddy when you're playing video games, or when you're testing out Street Fighter moves to see like what the buttons all do. He did some weird, after the play, after Horford got the rebound and scored, he did some weird thrust with his forearm to the air. There was nobody in front of him. It was strange. It's on my Twitter feed. If you go down my Twitter timeline from last night, Sedano ESPN, Sedano ESPN, feel free to have fun with it, retweet it, get in our mentions about it. It was pretty hilarious. Like I think you said it best, and a lot of people agreed with you, was that it looked like a video game glitch.
Yep. It's sometimes if you'll be playing NBA 2K or NBA Live or one of those games, and it'll always be in a situation like that. First of all, it's your man. It's never the other team. It's never the computer that does it. It's always your man. And it's like, we're up one. Okay, all we got to do, guys, is just hold on for this one possession. And the guy misses, like, go get that rebound. And then instead your man does this weird little move. Like, what are you doing? And of course you lose on that.
I still don't know what he was doing there. And again, I'm not blaming him. Like, people thought I was blaming him. I'm like, no, I'm not blaming him. I just feel like it was an odd thing to do after the play was over. Like, was he going to run at somebody? Like, what was happening there?
I don't know. I mean, it was literally like he was playing against ghosts. Like, he was playing against Kadeem Hardison in the Sixth Man. It was not, he was not reacting to things that were happening in front of him.
When was the last time anyone referenced Kadeem Hardison, which, by the way, I was a huge Dwayne Wayne fan in a different world.
I think 90% of our under 35 crowd is just tuned out right now. They're like, what is a Kadeem?
Who are you talking about?
What is this Kadeem Hardison you speak of? But again, getting back to the point, like Al Horford, man, that play right there. I mean, that when you want to just say the triumph of the human spirit above any condition, I think of that Al Horford play. He was a man.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
He's not 40, but he's still a man. That's for sure.
A man, yeah.
So get this: Al Horford and Paul Pierce, and the game boiled down to them, and it was strange because Pierce hit a big three. Then the next trip down, he kind of fell over himself and turned the ball over, and then of course he hits the big three where he thought it was a series clincher. And he's yelling to his bench and yelling to everyone that'll listen to him, yelling, series, series, series. And then Al Horford happened.
Here's my thing. Here's my take on it. I know this is definitely going to be not a popular take, but I'm going to say it anyway. I like Paul Pierce doing that. I support him for doing that. You know why? First of all, as a riverboat gambler, I can appreciate anyone who puts their intestinal fortitude on the line. So guess what? I'm going to cash this check with my mouth right now. That's how confident I am. I appreciate that. But I think more importantly, and this is the part of the thing that might fly over everybody's head, is there is an element of brilliant psychological warfare at work here. If he hits that shot, says series, first of all, he said it to their bench first. That's how the AJC beat writer, whose name escapes me, I'm so awful at this, but he does a great job covering the Hawks. He was the first one to tweet it because he's sitting close to the Hawks side, and he said, Paul Pierce says series to the Hawks bench, and then, of course, he goes back to his bench and says it. If they end up winning that game, first of all, it couldn't have been a series because there's still Game 6. But the psychological dagger of him saying this thing is over and you guys blew it on your home floor right here, right now in this corner on this play. They're demoralized, dude. They're demoralized. I mean, this is something that the franchise may not recover from if that is so the case. By the way, the beat writer's name is Chris Vive-L'amour. I'm sorry. I follow him. I love his stuff, and I just blanked on his name, but super producer Josh has helped me out here. But yeah, so Paul Pierce, if that shot were true, if that was the game winner, first of all, it's just great trash talk, right? Second of all, it is the greatest emotional blow you can take to a team, right? I mean, that's a gut-wrenching loss for the Hawks that's compounded by that statement. And third, I mean, that just goes in the Hall of Fame, like, video reel, right?
Oh, my God. No question. Of course. Yeah, that thing is running on a loop constantly at that point. Man, but it's just crazy that it boiled down to those two. Not that it should be too shocking, because they've got a penchant for being guys that perform well late in games. We've got some numbers here. Al Horford, field goal percentage in clutch time, last 5 postseasons, which is within, last 5 minutes of the game and the score within 5 points. His field goal percentage is 61% in those situations. Paul Pierce is next after him at 52%. So not too surprising that those guys are big performers when it matters most.
And here's the thing about Al Horford. I said this 2 years ago when we were talking about who's the best power forward. Is it Kevin Love? Is it LaMarcus Aldridge? Is it Blake Griffin? Is it Chris Bosh? And I would say Bosh is probably number 1 for me, but Horford is probably number 2. And people say, what? And I said, here's the problem with Horford. Up until this year, if you ask a casual fan or even a more than casual fan, what's Al Horford's game? They couldn't describe it. They don't know. They never watch. And injuries obviously have played a part in people not knowing about him. But he's always been a great player. And it's nice for him to finally get that recognition nationally. Like we're talking about on this podcast, sure people are bringing up that stat on other shows and other radio shows. And of course, the biggest way you get your name out there is if you do big things in the playoffs. And what he did last night, that was a very big thing.
Yeah, it was huge, man. And a good dude, too. Like one of the real good dudes in that league. So you got to be really happy for him. All right, so if you're Washington, is there anything you can take? Are you a moral victory type guy? Like John Wall played well in the first half, looked a little gassed in the second half, but one would assume that he'll look better in the next game. Is it enough? Do you think that they have enough to push this thing to 7, the Wizards?
I'm not a moral victory guy, but I am a guy who understands the role of luck. And usually the smaller the margin, especially if it's consistent across games, the more a role luck has, whether it's a couple of calls this way, whether it's a couple of bounces, what have you. And so if I'm Washington, I can honestly say, with or without Wall, we really haven't been outplayed from start to finish in any game in this series. And if that's the case, we have to feel confident that we can protect home court, and we have to feel confident that we can come back here and win Game 7. And, especially with John Wall there, because that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway, and that's not a moral victory. To say, hey, John, you have 5 fractures in your left hand. Can you play? And he says, yes, and I can play well. That's not a moral victory. That's like, well, all right, then, let's go to war.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that you would feel confident with him. And look, there are a lot of people that think if he's in this series and he's healthy, that this series may be over, that it may be Washington. But the one thing I do look at in regards to Atlanta's play, and you mentioned they didn't play very well, was the 25 turnovers, man. I mean, this is a team that even in the postseason, even after last night, is averaging about 13 turnovers a game. So they're just not that type of team. Like, they're a team that has done a pretty decent job of taking care of the ball this year. I mean, they were, I believe, middle of the pack. They're about the same thing, about 13 and a half turnovers a game. So when you have 12 more turnovers than you normally have, and I don't feel like Washington, to be quite honest, took advantage of those turnovers as well as they could have. I look at it this way. I think, man, if I'm Atlanta, I feel like, yeah, we played a terrible game. They got John back, and we still found a way to win, lucky or not. Like, we feel good about our chances in the next game, too, even if it's on the road.
Well, George, let me ask you this. Even as Atlanta made its huge run in the fourth quarter, did you feel like they were playing Atlanta Hawks basketball, meaning that style of play that we came accustomed to during the regular season?
No. You know why? Because Jeff Teague was not a factor yesterday. And look, I'll give John Wall a lot of credit for that. I think John Wall kind of eliminated him from the game. And then they have to go with Schroeder. And he's just not – we've talked about this. He's not Jeff Teague in that situation. He doesn't move the ball the same way. Schroeder likes to kind of take the shots himself. He's constantly in that mode where he's battling to take shots, and I think that's the big problem.
Yeah, to me, I think that's the thing is even though Atlanta won this game and they may very well win this series, they have yet in the playoffs to play from start to finish in an Atlanta Hawks game with the ball moving, with no hesitation, with guys always in motion and things just happening. They get stretches of it. They'll get pushes of it, but they can't get start to finish wire to wire performance, win or loss. They can't get a wire to wire performance of Atlanta Hawks basketball. And specifically last night, they won that game because they put on a remarkable run. It's great. I'm not taking anything away from it, but they didn't do it playing their style. And moving forward, if they are to move past this series, I still don't have a lot of confidence in them, because they're not playing the way that they play.
Listen, I mean, I'm just going to do this. There's one trait that me and my fellow Cubans have. We're a bit stubborn. And I've been caping for Atlanta all season, and the ATL knows this, and I'm going to cape for them again. I think that I feel like they, much like when we're talking about the Warriors, and we've had this conversation, and I know you disagree, but they haven't hit open shots, and they're not moving the ball the same way. But I think there's going to come a time where they're going to figure this thing out. Like, I feel like Washington, because they're dealing with some injuries, and I don't think that they're a great team either, I think that it bodes well for Atlanta that if they can work out these kinks in this next game, if they can find a way to play the Atlanta basketball we saw in the regular season and make that happen in one of these two next games potentially, then I think they can gain that confidence. But to me, it's all about Jeff Teague. If they can get through this series, I don't see Kyrie Irving bothering Jeff Teague first of all, like John Wall does, but in general, like the Wizards would do. Because Kyrie Irving is not that guy. Matthew Dellavedova is certainly not that guy. So I feel like Teague will be better in the next series against Cleveland if that's who advances. If it's Chicago, which I don't expect to be the case, I think it could be much more difficult. But that's why I kind of like Atlanta moving forward. Now, I don't know if they'll get to the finals, but I feel like if they can get out of this series, I think that they can be more like the Atlanta we saw during the regular season.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think, I think Cleveland will probably match up Shumpert or even J.R. Smith with Teague. Shumpert definitely with Teague, and avoid that. And I think, again, I would have to say, you know what, Jeff Teague got to guard Kyrie Irving as well. It ain't all cookies and cream out here,
Sure. No, I understand that. I'm just saying in regards to his offense, which seems to be at times has struggled.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. John Wall is a great defensive player, and not playing against John Wall could conceivably make Teague play better.
All right, so then we get the Warriors. Now, you and I talked about this. Did the Warriors figure this thing out? We talked about it with Izzy the other day. Have they kind of, do they have the Midas touch now, basically, where they have all this sorted out with how to play Memphis? Now, granted, Tony Allen didn't play yesterday, but, man, it wasn't so much even what the Warriors were doing on offense, that impressed me. It's what they did on defense yesterday that impressed me.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm going to sidetrack us, and I'm going to ask, because a lot of people have heard people say this. Well, Tony Allen didn't play. Do you think Tony Allen would have made a difference last night?
No, I think it would have made it a closer game only because it would have been a closer game, because I think it would have been a more low-scoring game. But, yeah,
why is that?
Look, at the end of the day.
Why would it have been a more low-scoring because Tony Allen can't score? Is that why?
Because I don't think because they had 20. They had 20 uncontested three-point shots, and they hit 10 of those 20 specific ones. They had 30 attempts in general. And I don't think that they hit that many if Tony's on the floor regularly. That's just me.
No, exactly. If Tony is on the floor regularly. I'm glad you said those words. If Tony is on the floor regularly, not just on the floor, but regularly. You know how many minutes he played in Game 4? Off the top of your head? Give us a guess.
There was like 8:20.
No. Game 4? No, he played 16 minutes. 16 minutes.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah. So why? It wasn't a hamstring that made him play 16 minutes. He was effectively checkmated. The chess move happened, and they could not adjust. And so the idea that if Tony Allen hadn't been hurt yesterday, this mysterious hamstring injury, hadn't manifested itself, that he would have played and they would have been on the floor long enough to affect that avalanche. I patently disagree with that because my thing is he wouldn't have been on the floor. No. You're saying I know.
I'm not saying it's. Look, I think the Warriors still win. I know. It's a 20-point game.
No. I know. I'm not putting that in. I'm not putting those words in your mouth that you think, they would have won the game or whatever. But I'm just saying that, the way Game 4 went and the fact that it didn't look like Memphis had an answer for that strategy going into Game 5. I think Tony Allen would have played probably even less because now instead of him getting that first 4, 5, 6 minute stretch that he got in Game 4 where it's like he's still confident he hadn't figured out what was going on, and then as the game wears on, like, oh my God, they're not guarding me at all. Now it's a whole game like that. And now it's way harder to play an entire game knowing, hey, we're going to guard you with our center, and he's not even going to pay attention to you. It's like guarding DeAndre Jordan in the corner, So, that makes him even less effective. I think he plays probably less than 16 minutes last night.
Yeah, but look, we agree. Like, I think they've checkmated him. They've got the Midas touch. They figured this thing out, the Warriors. And if you look at the last two games and the way that the Grizzlies have been so inefficient in the paint, Game 4, they were 39% inside the paint. They were 36% yesterday. And that's it. Like, that's the problem. If they can't get in the paint and do it in an efficient manner, the Grizzlies, then forget it. This thing is a wrap. And I think, to be honest, it's going to be a wrap in the next game.
George, you know why I like working with you, man? Because you started with the line that I've been, saving for all of my radio appearances today and all my TV stuff and all that, which is, a lot of people are going to talk about the Warriors' offense because it looks dazzling when they shoot like that. But this game really was about their defense. And you hit it on the head with all those points. It really was. They suffocated the Memphis Grizzlies. And to be honest, if I'm going to be brutally honest, I thought the Warriors' offense wasn't that good. They made shots.
Right.
They made shots.
Yeah.
And that part we're never impressed by because, that's what they do. But how they got those shots, sloppy passes, broken plays. I mean, they didn't run a fluid offense. It's just so the ball would trickle to somebody and, usually Steph or Clay, and they make the shot. Or they got out in transition off of stops and got dunks and layups. But, again, the story of this game, 100% was their defense.
Another amazing stat that I saw John Schumann of NBA.com put out there is that the Warriors are now 51-0.
52.
When
updated.
No, 52 now, right? Yesterday, 52, right? 52-0 when they've have a lead of 15 points or more or 15 points or more at any point in a game. I mean, that's pretty. First of all, the fact that you've had 52 games this season where you had a 15-point lead or more is ridiculous. Okay, and to take it even further, because someone tweeted this to me, and Schumann, responded after I retweeted his tweet about the 52-0. They asked about, well, what about if they have a 20-point or more lead? And Schumann said they're 35-0 in the regular season and 5-0 in the playoffs. So 40-0 when they have a 20-point lead or more, which is even more crazy when you think about it. It's 40 times already this season they've had a 20-point lead in a game.
So basically, doing the quick math for you people, 57% of their games played so far have been done and over with as soon as they hit the 15-point mark. And you said 40?
Yep.
40 out of the 91. That comes out to 44%. 44% of the games they've played, they've had a 20-point lead. 44% of the games.
If UB Brown were here, he'd say 44%. If you get 44% in that situation, you're golden.
I mean, it's golden. That's a great word. And again, like I brought it up. I brought up that stat, I think, yesterday before the game because I read John Schumann bring it up. And somebody said, well, of course, if you have a 15-point lead, you're going to win the game. I'm like, first of all, my man, I guarantee you there ain't a team that's got an O in that record, whatever it is, an O, or even 1 or 2.
Well, wait a second. The Grizzlies were up 13 in the first quarter yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
And they lost by 20. Yeah. So it can certainly happen.
And the other thing is, again, I don't think people are grasping this. In 44% of their games, they've been up 20. In 57% of their games, they've been up 15.
It's crazy.
That is
crazy.
Inhuman. It is not. That is a record scratch. Absolutely.
Yep. Makes me feel like we should play some Skilo right now, just after that record scratch.
Yeah, you wish we could play some Skilo, but we won't.
I wish. Real quick, I want to shout out to my boy Michael Wallace from ESPN.com who's covering this series for us.
Yep.
Because he threw me a shout out yesterday, so I figure I got to give him a shout out back. He threw me a shout out on Twitter. He wrote yesterday, got to give Sedano credit. He was riding with the Warriors before the national bandwagon formed. He's been shouting GSW hoops since Monte. Thank you, Michael Wallace, for recognizing.
Yeah, man. See, this is how it goes, right? All right. That's all. What I need to do now is I need to dig up somebody. Why? We can dig up the episode at the beginning of the year when I said the Warriors are the favorite to win the championship, even after I picked the Spurs to win it for the .com.
Yeah, right. After you mixed and matched every other place.
You know what? Come fight me. If you don't like it, come fight me.
Go fight you in your front yard. All right, so there you go. We got that. Coming up next in 60 seconds, Amin had an open letter to the Pelicans after firing Monty Williams, and he also wants to poke some fun at the NBA Combine. That's next here on the NBA Lockdown Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the NBA Lockdown Podcast. Alongside Amin Elhassan, I'm Jorge Sedano. So you got the open letter out there to the Pelicans for Monty Williams, but now it's time to talk candidates. Candidates. That's a job. You and I talked about it on radio. By the way, you could always tune into the radio show, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, or download the podcast, The Sedano Show, at ESPN.com/PodCenter or iTunes.
Humbly named.
What's that?
Humbly named, The Sedano Show.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you got to do it. Listen, don't even get me started on that. That's another topic for another day. But anyway, so you have your open letter, and we're talking candidates now. Look, everyone assumes John Calipari will want the job because of Anthony Davis, and we're always waiting to see when John Calipari will make a return to the NBA. I don't know if that's happening anytime soon or not. I know he's got the extension in Kentucky, though none of that stuff really matters because Billy Donovan, they got an extension in December at Florida. seem to matter either. So there's him, there's Mark Jackson, there's Kevin Ollie maybe. I know he said he wasn't interested in the Thunder job, but, maybe Anthony Davis would change his mind. Then there's who? Mike D'Antoni. Yep. Tom Thibodeau is likely available. Yep. So am I missing anyone?
Alvin Gentry.
Alvin Gentry, right, your boy. Who else? Is there anyone else we're missing?
Mike Malone and Scott Brooks.
Mike Malone is a good one, and I didn't even think of that one yesterday when I was talking about this on the show.
Mike Malone, he was an assistant in New Orleans. Maybe it was 3 years ago. Before he was with Golden State. He went from New Orleans to Golden State, and then from Golden State to that Sacramento job.
Yeah, that's a good one. So who's the best fit?
Oof, man, it's tough, man. This one. All right, so I think of just very quickly tour of all the guys. So I think of a guy like Mike D'Antoni, like his offensive genius, and you take a guy like Drew Holiday, very good point guard, and Anthony Davis, such a versatile big man, and you think to yourself, oh my God, that's magic in the making. But then you think, well, the Pelicans, even though their offense wasn't anything to write home about aesthetically, it was still a top 10 offense, but their defense was awful. And so, do I really want Mike D'Antoni? Defense is my biggest issue. So you say, no, Mike D'Antoni. So you say Tom Thibodeau. Oh, he's a great defensive guy, right? He's an incredible defensive mind and all that stuff. But then you think, but he plays his guys into the ground, and the last thing we need is the crown jewel of the NBA, Anthony Davis, who we're all excited to watch for the next 10 years, just dominate. I don't want to see him playing 47 minutes and getting hurt and being in and out of lineups and stuff. So maybe not Tom Thibodeau. So then you say, like, Scott Brooks. And to me, Scott Brooks is a guy who's good at, I call him an A to B coach. He gets you from point A to point B, and this is a team that definitely needs to get to point B. But then you say, the offense isn't that exciting. And then the other thing, even more damning, is he's really good at developing players. And the Pelicans, I know we like thinking of them as a young team, but other than Anthony Davis, nobody's on rookie scale on that team. They're all vets.
Right.
So it's like, maybe not Scott Brooks. So then you hit up like the guys in NorCal, right? Mike Malone and Alvin Gentry. And I think they both have different approaches, but they've experienced success on different levels. And by the way, both have been assistant coaches for the New Orleans franchise. They've been in New Orleans. So they both have kind of a local tie, so to speak. I think either one of those guys would be great for that job.
Mike Malone is actually a really good one. I didn't think about that. What about Mark Jackson? No?
Oh, I think Mark Jackson would be good for that job, too. I think Mark, again, we look at the Warriors' defensive mentality. I think Mark deserves a lot of credit for that. He brought that culture there. And I think even though his offense wasn't, the most exciting or got the most out of the Warriors' talent, they still were pretty good. And one thing you can definitely confirm is when Mark Jackson is coaching, the best player is going to have a ball in his hands. Like, you rarely saw that ball leave Steph Curry's hands or Klay Thompson's hands. So if I'm the Pelicans, the biggest grief I had about them last year was how many times has Anthony Davis not even touched the ball? You got to touch the ball, right? And I think Mark would be great at, first of all, building a defensive mentality out of a team that has no business being bottom 10 in defense in the NBA. You talk about Ashik and Anthony Davis on the same team, and Holiday, who, by the way, is a pretty good defensive point guard, and you're still awful defensively. That doesn't make sense. So I think Mark can definitely turn that around from that standpoint. And then offensively, I think at least the right guys are going to get the ball.
Right. Yeah, I think Jackson and Malone make a lot of sense there. But I guess Jackson is probably waiting to see what happens with Blatt, right?
I think a lot of people are waiting to see that.
Hashtag hate hard.
Sorry, Blatt. This is the way it goes.
You know what's funny? We're in here, and a certain sports television network is on one of the screens, and they've got a TV show called Inside Israeli Basketball. And I turned to Josh, and I said, I think this is foreshadowing. Like, hey, Dave, have you seen this show? I feel any pangs of nostalgia? Like, oh, remember back when? Yeah.
It's too funny. All right, the other thing we wanted to get to, we got two more things we want to get to here before we get out of here. You were bored as hell yesterday on a plane.
I was.
And the Wi-Fi didn't work very well, and you somehow started ranking NBA cities. I don't know why that popped into your head, but you did. And first of all, why did you decide to do this?
Oh, man. Well, it started because, all right, it all started with a very innocent / funny tweet that I'll do. So they said Tony Allen's out because of a hamstring injury. And I said, he must have heard it taking one of those ugly jump shots at it, right?
Hashtag hate hard.
It's a hate hard, but it has nothing to do with his skill level or how good of he is as a player or his place in the NBA or any of these things. And, of course, I get attacked by what I like to call the Memphis inferiority complex, which is all these people who, because they're upset that they're from Memphis or have to live in Memphis, I don't know what it is about their lives that they're miserable about. But anytime anyone says anything, they feel the need to just, call attention to themselves, which I guess they haven't seen my Twitter feed recently. They don't know that I'm venomous when it comes to these things. So they're all feeling really slighted because of this, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And so I started killing them. And so someone said, does Memphis have the biggest inferiority complex, or does Cleveland? And I said, oh, man, it's hard to differentiate between a lot of these cities. There are a lot of candidates there. Then it got me thinking, what are my favorite NBA cities just to go to, right? Because, Memphis and Cleveland, they're not that high on the list. So what are my favorite cities? So I decided to rank every single city solely based on I'm coming to visit, not what is the arena like, not what are their fans like, they have great fans, none of that, just places I like to visit.
Okay, and then what did you get?
Well, if you want to dig through my timeline, you can find the full list, but number one...
Okay, give me the top five.
All right,
give me the top five.
The number one was L.A., and that shocked a lot of people because I'm very critical of the Lakers often. I've been critical of the Clippers, and they think somehow this means I don't like L.A. I love L.A. The weather's awesome all year round. There's a lot of stuff to do. People are laid back, and there's a lot of stuff to, you can, ski. If you're into skiing or whatever, it's not that far away. If you're into the beach, it's not that far away. If you're into Vegas, it's not that far away. There's something for everybody, I think, in L.A. Number two was a city that I just visited recently, and I'm sure you'll be happy to hear this, Miami. You gotta love Miami, right? Oh, go ahead and cape for it.
Listen, I don't need to cape for it. It capes for itself. Like that's just the reality of it. I mean, Miami and LA are going to be 1 and 2 on pretty much everybody's list. I think for the most part.
Well, except for people in Memphis and Cleveland. You don't like culture. I'm like, okay. Do you think barbecue is culture?
Wait a second.
Yeah, exactly.
No offense, but Miami and Los Angeles are two of the most international cities in America.
Exactly.
Like, what are we talking about here?
This is basically, people live bland Americana, and they claim that to be like this is utmost culture here. 3 was New York. I'm from New York. New York would be number 1 for me if it weren't for the fact that the winters are so bad and when I talk about visiting NBA cities, I kind of am alluding to visiting during the NBA season because that's usually when I go to a lot of these cities. I don't usually go during the summertime in a lot of these places.
Right.
4, I want to say was Atlanta off the top of my head. I love Atlanta.
Atlanta is very good. It's funny. We did something like this recently on my show too, and the guys in my studio were like Atlanta. And I'm like, man, you guys never been to Atlanta? Atlanta's a great town to hang out in. Absolutely. I don't think there's any question.
There are 2 cities that I think in America that there's no in between. Either you love them or you're like blah, and it's not like 80% love and 20% blah. It's like 50-50. Right. Atlanta and Washington D.C. I think
I love both towns.
I love both towns too. And I was talking with Vinny Goodwill. See, I can shout out people too. Vinny Goodwill from CS in Chicago. He was complaining to me that D.C. was too low on the list, and I said, Vinny, you should see my mentions. All like, D.C. And I'm just like, look, I can't explain it. I just know either it appeals to you or it doesn't appeal to you. It appeals to me. It appeals to a lot of people I know. And so those 2 cities are like hot button cities because they are the the swing states or swing cities, I should say. But
I love Chicago too.
See, Chicago's low on the list because every time I go to Chicago, it's cold.
Weather?
Yeah.
Yeah, weather. Playoffs. It's a good playoff city because the weather at least starts to get better.
Never been there during the playoffs, so maybe if they make the finals this year, maybe I'll go. And then I'll have.
But I will say this: I was there for the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals, and the first day I was there, it was like 35 degrees or something like that. It was like really, and then the next day it got a little better. It was like 40s, and then it got better as we were there for a couple of days. That first day or 2 was rough.
Dude, you just invalidated them. They're never gonna make this list now.
But it's a great town, like great bars, great restaurants.
Maybe baseball. Yeah, maybe it can be on the favorite MLB cities, but not favorite NBA
fine.
cities. 5 for me was New Orleans.
I caped up for you, Chicago.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, well, there you go. Number 5 for me was New Orleans. And this, this is one I think that, now, this isn't a 50-50 thing. If you've been to New Orleans, you get it. If you've never been to New Orleans, then I guess you don't get it. No, you know what? Yeah, I think 5 was New Orleans and 6 was Toronto. or was.
Oh, Toronto is very good
Toronto,
too, except the winter, obviously.
But you know what?
Too, but.
Toronto does a good job of even through the winter. They,
Yeah.
It's just when you talk about international cities. Somebody said, "Oh, well, if you got Toronto that high, why don't you have Minneapolis that high?" Because they're nowhere alike. Like Toronto's like this cosmopolitan, worldly city, and Minneapolis people talk like this. Come on, man. Like,
there's nothing wrong with Minneapolis people either, by the way. Okay, no offense. I like Memphis. I love barbecue. So Memphis, I'm not getting down on you. And Minneapolis, I like your Nordic past and ancestry.
Josh, watch me put him on the spot. You like Memphis? Is Memphis in your top 10?
Not in my top 10, but I like it.
Top 15?
Yeah, I think it may be in my top 15.
Top 15.
I would consider. I'd have to think.
Man, don't make.
Well, no, hold on. I'll do it real quick.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me go through the cities real quick.
All
Let me look up this old standings, and I'll just go through it real quick. All right, I would go Miami, LA.
Okay. Don't rank them. Just give me ones that name the ones.
I'll just get. Okay, I'll just give them to you in a certain order.
Okay.
Like it doesn't have. It's not in a specific order.
Right.
Miami, LA, New York, Chicago, Toronto, Atlanta, Washington D.C. That's 7. Golden State,
Oakland, Bay Area.
because you're in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
That's 8. New Orleans obviously is in there too. That's 9. Then after that, it's like, Then like that, I would probably maybe I sneak in Memphis at 10 because it's either them or one of the Texas teams.
Wow. So you don't, man, you don't like
maybe Boston. 10. Maybe Boston. 10.
I'm not a Boston fan, but I had Boston above them.
Right, Boston maybe in there, and then some of the Texas. I mean, they're in the top 15, Memphis for sure.
Really?
Like, I do think
so
that.
you don't like Houston or Dallas more than
No,
Memphis?
I don't like Dallas. Everything is too spread out, man. Like it's a pain in the ass to get around there.
You don't like Phoenix? You don't like Phoenix more than
Phoenix is? Yeah, I think Phoenix would be in my top 15. Maybe Phoenix would crack the top 10. Like I think that the top 9 are pretty cemented, and then anything after that, I think is up for debate. Like for me.
Man, it really isn't up for debate to me. Like Memphis, Cleveland.
Well, Cleveland, I don't like, and I know people are going to say, "Oh, it's LeBron." No, man, listen. When LeBron was in Cleveland,
it's not.
I actually went. I had to. It's not. There's not a lot of stuff to do there. I've been there in the summer. It's a little better. I remember doing a Hall of Fame induction. Back 10, 15 years ago, whenever Dan Marino got inducted.
Right.
I was in Akron, and we drove into Cleveland one night to hang out. We had a decent time. In the summertime, but in the winter, I remember I did a Christmas game there with Shaq and Dwayne Wade. Though that was the year, 2 years after they won the title. It was like Ricky Davis was on the team, and so it was a Christmas in Cleveland, and I was so lonely. I was like, I can't believe I'm in Cleveland. Everything was closed. That's when we're talking about like 07, 08. When there was nothing downtown in Cleveland. Nothing. Now, at least, it's a little better from what I understand.
They have a casino.
There's a decent nightlife there.
It's a decent nightlife. All the grandmas can go put a couple of nickels in the slots.
What I mean, there was nothing. After the game, on Christmas night, everything was closed downtown. I went back to my hotel and ate, Chinese food. That's what I did. And watched the rest of the games. Like, that's what I did.
Oh, man. Look, I tell you, Detroit, like that whole Midwest, Central Division, Detroit, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago. I guess is the crown jewel of it, but it's like even Chicago to me is low on that list. I like Chicago. I'm not a fan of any of those cities, man. I like the Southeast.
Denver's a nice city. Denver's a nice city.
So Denver is one that of all the ones that I named and people gave me crap about, I think Denver might be the only one because every time I've been to Denver, it's been a billion feet of snow and the airport is like thousands and thousands of miles away from Denver, which is a pain. Right. But every person that I know who lives in Denver, so that
loves it.
George Carl and Chauncey Billups and all these people, they say, no, the winters are actually pretty mild. They're like, and if it snows, it melts the same day. I'm like, dude.
Right.
And
March Schlereth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Schlereth and I obviously work together a lot, and he told me, he goes, dude, it can be snowing one day and it'll be 70 degrees the next day. That's just kind of the way it works.
He said the same. Like all the Denver people say that, but I've never experienced it. So that's the only one that I think I reserve judgment. Like maybe I've been too hasty on this one, but to me the Southeast Division, I love it, even though, Orlando is kind of a little slowpoke town, but I still.
It's more family oriented. Yeah.
I'm a Disney guy. I like going to Disney World. Obviously, the Pacific Division, everything but Sacramento is terrific.
Right.
And then, you know what, man? This is some interesting one that Arash Markazi injected. He said, Vancouver and Seattle, ex-NBA cities.
Yeah, I never got a chance to go to either, but I've heard just unbelievable stories about how great those towns
I've never been to Seattle. Vancouver, though, is we used to have an exhibition game that we play there because Steve Nash obviously is from British Columbia.
Yeah,
dude. Every time we go there, like, are you kidding me? The NBA league office come to this city and say it's not good enough. Let's go to Memphis. Like, I cannot believe to this day that anyone looked at Vancouver and looked at Memphis and said, that sounds like an even swap right there. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's
you're so mean.
Dude, Vancouver, think of Toronto, all the things we love about Toronto, and now remove the bad weather. Just give it that Pacific Northwest. Okay, it may rain a couple of times, but snow and all that stuff, you have to go up to Whistler. It's not, Vancouver is not like a snowy Canadian outpost. It is a beautiful West Coast metropolitan, cosmopolitan city of the world. And we said no to it in favor of some barbecue and a little heartbreak hotel,
great jazz in Memphis too. Memphis, I got you in my top 15. You're in my upper half. Just remember that. Just remember that. Just remember that. You know what it is? The Texas cities, what gets me is I just have been there too many times. Yeah. I think that's what it is. I've covered so many sporting events in Houston and in Dallas and in San Antonio. And they're nice cities, don't get me wrong. But I just feel I've been there so many times. Maybe and I loved San Antonio, for example. I did a Final Four there in 2004. For the Final Four, it's one of the best cities ever because everything is close. You can walk. Yes. The Riverwalk is going nuts. For the NBA Finals, it was, again, people don't travel the same way as they do for a Final Four, so it's different. And San Antonio is such a great convention city that I feel like it was weird when I went there the last couple of years.
Dude,
let me watch the finals.
It is awful. I hate San Antonio with a passion. That's the one. I hate the Riverwalk.
I will say their fans are awesome because when they win games in the finals, they shut down the city.
Oh, yes, they do.
Hit the streets.
Dude.
It's fantastic.
Wasn't that shocked me. I was like, what's going on here? I didn't know. I didn't know. For those of you that don't know, when they win a game, not the finals, not the whole championship, anytime they win a game, they all go out in the streets and they drive around honking their horns, up until 2 in the morning. It's
all around downtown. It's fantastic. Yeah. It really is fantastic. It's you could just Google it because I guarantee you'll find it. When I was there the last couple of years, I took pictures of the people out there. It was hilarious. It was fun.
I watched from the hotel.
It was. Look, man, I don't know. I feel like, as I said, top 9 to me are cemented. Everything after that is up for debate. All right, last thing before we get out of here. I saw this. You brought this up today during our pre-show email. You saw this on SB Nation, and there was an issue at the NBA Combine that you want to kind of make some fun of and poke some fun of. What happened?
Yeah, so, it's a player from Utah, Vince Hunter. He's 6'7", 6'8", or whatever. And for some reason, under his height without shoes, and obviously it's a typo, but still, and it was listed as, 5'11". Yeah, and it's just I don't want to be that guy that's just calling people out, but man, you have one job to do, man. All you have to do is just they yell it out to you, because I've done this before. Back in the days before it was a lot more organized, and even as people still do this because teams will do this. When you bring guys in for your workouts, if they've been in Chicago, usually you'll just take the Chicago measurements. But if they haven't, we got to measure them. And literally, it's just the trainer's there, and he measures them, and he yells out the thing, and you type it in, and he yells out the thing with the shoes, and you type it in, and we go from there. And so for them to have 5'10" or 5'11" or whatever it was, come on, man. You can't even say, oh, yeah, I meant to say 6'10", because the dude is 6'8". I just don't know how they get to that place other than copying and pasting and ruining it. So get your game up. And watch this be doctored by SB Nation. No, it was just a fake article, man. You took it seriously. And then I get all the messages dude, you're supposed to be an NBA expert. You didn't even know that was just a fake. Oh my God, I could do your job. Why can't I have your job? Oh, grit and grind. A little bit hesitation, a little bit.
Why are you so mad? You and Memphis, man, are just so mad at each other. So mad. It's crazy, dude. Like,
I gotta rub it in now.
They're nice people there, man.
No, they're not. They are not nice people. Hey, they are not nice people.
They were not nice to you because you're not nice to them.
I didn't say anything about them. I said Tony Allen got hurt taking an ugly jump shot. I didn't say whether it went in or not. Yeah, you know, he could have shot 100%. Like, it's an ugly jump shot. And they decided to get it started. So this is how we ended the NBA Lockdown podcast with the Hate Hard and the Elvis voice of that song. We don't know the words. It's a little bit hesitation.
All right, that'll do it for us. Follow Amin on Twitter, and Memphis, go get him if you want. At Amin ESPN, AMIN ESPN. You can follow me on Twitter as well, at Sedano ESPN, SEDANO ESPN. Listen to the radio show, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Radio. Download that podcast as well at the Pod Center or on iTunes. It's the Sedano Show. All right, Amin, enjoy the games along with the audience, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for the last edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast this week. Again, Monday through Friday during the postseason, we are doling out podcasts for you. So enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Grit and grind.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.